Hey there, Soul Shines. My name is Michelle, and I'm excited today to share with you a tutorial. Today, we are talking about a crochet basic. So I'm so excited that you have learned or taken up the journey to learn crochet. Yay! It's something I've been doing for a long time, and I think it's really fun to hear that people are learning to crochet. So today we're going to be talking about the double crochet. When you see it in a pattern, usually at the top of a pattern it will have a little guide that says these are the abbreviations for the different things. And the double crochet, this is a US thing, this is a US term for this stitch. I don't remember what it's called in other terms, but in the US it's called a double crochet, and the symbol is usually, it's not a symbol, but it's capital D and capital C, so DC, double crochet. And to do this, to learn this, if you haven't already gone and watched my chain tutorial, I'm going to stick it in the iCards, and I will probably mention that again, but I'm going to stick it in the iCards here. You need to know how to do a chain. And the chain is probably the most foundation thing that you need to do, because almost everything in crochet, not quite everything, but almost everything in crochet starts with a chain stitch. And then whatever kind of yarn you use is kind of up to you, but for learning I suggest that you kind of go with the worsted weight number 4, easy to find 4-weight worsted weight yarn. That's probably the best to start with, just for learning. It's a good size to see what you're doing. You want to be careful that you don't choose a yarn that's too dark, and for learning you don't want to use one that changes colors very much, because that's going to be harder for you to see the stitches and stuff. And then for your hook size, I would suggest that you use whatever hook size is on the package, or one size bigger. So in the United States, if you use an H, say your package calls for an H, when you're learning you might actually want to go to an I or even a J and make your stitches bigger. A lot of times I suggest that because a new crocheter tends to be a little bit tight until they kind of get the hang of it. With that, let's get over to the other view, to the creation station, and let's get crocheting. We usually start with a chain. For how to do a chain, check the iCards up here. I will have my tutorial for chaining there. Sometimes you will have things in a circle and you'll work around a circle, but for today we're just going to work with a basic chain. The number of chains totally depends on your pattern, and for today we've just done a few. Just like in my single crochet tutorial, which you can check out in the iCards, you can work in the front loop or the back loop of your chain. So I'm going to show you both so that you know what that looks like. Typically you'll be told to double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook or the 4th chain from the hook. Your pattern could tell you to count to the 12th chain or the 15th chain, or it could be anything. To double crochet, the first thing you are going to do is do a yarn over. To yarn over, you're going to come towards yourself, go underneath away from you, and now you've got another yarn loop on your hook. You're going to count back however many directions say to put your first double crochet in. I'm going to go into the 4th chain. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go into this 4th one right here. I'm just going to put it right under. This is going in the front loop, and I just stick it right through. Then I'm going to go underneath the yarn towards away from me, loop it, and I'm just going to pull it through underneath that one. Now I've got 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over again by going underneath away from me, and then I'm going to pull it through 2 of these loops. 1, 2. And I've left this one here, and now I've got 2 again. So I'm going to yarn over again, come towards me, go underneath the way, and now it's on there, and I'm going to pull it through underneath those two. We've made our first double crochet. When we're counting, unless you were told otherwise, you count this as your first. So this would be 1, 2. There are ways where people only have 2 chains on the end and then they don't count it. There are other techniques that you can use instead of chaining as well. But for the simplicity of a basic crochet tutorial, we're going to just count these chains as the first stitch. 1, 2. I'm going to go bring my yarn towards me again, go underneath and catch it, and I've got one more loop on my hook. And then I'm going to come over, and it looks kind of funny because this one's kind of big because I kind of pulled it when I was doing my stitch, but it will all work out in the end, I promise. I'm going to go under the next one, and I'm going to pull it up so that I have 3. I'm going to yarn over again. I'm going to pull it through 2. I'm going to yarn over again and pull it through 2. And let's kind of talk about why in the United States, because these are US terms, this is called a double crochet. When you do a single crochet, you don't yarn over, you put your hook through, you pull up a loop till you have 2, and then you go through both of them, and you've made the bottom half of this double crochet. When you do a double crochet, you do make a loop, and then you go in and you pull it through, and now you're going to be doing just like you did a single crochet. You're going to pull it through 2, and that was the first half, but we have 2 loops left, so we're going to go through 2 again, and so it's like 2 single crochets sitting on top of each other, and that's why it's a double crochet. And so we're going to go underneath again, and we're going to go in here, pull it up, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Okay, that's how you do it in the front loop. This is going to be a little bit awkward. We don't normally switch in the middle of our foundation chain, but I want to show you what it looks like to go in the back loops. So when I turn this over, I've got these bumps on the back. I'm going to turn my yarn and I'm going to go into the back loops. And if you want to know how to count those bumps, that is in my chain stitch tutorial. Okay. But this next one here, its back loop is there, so I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to turn this over so I can see my back loop. I'm going to go into the back loop, pull up my yarn so that I have my 3, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. The only difference on this is where we stick the hook in the first time. Okay, let's yarn over, make a loop. Now this will be a little easy because we're past where I've twisted this chain. Go in, pick up a loop by yarning over. Remember, we come towards this, go underneath towards the back, and it's looped around. Pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, stick it in. I may have actually added a stitch here. Pull it up, go through 2, go through 2. Okay, we're going to go again, yarning over, stick it in there, grab that, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. And we've got one more. If we look at the front, we've got a V here. If we look at the back, we've got a loop, but it's right by that knot, so it looks a little funny. I think I did actually add an extra stitch in when I twisted it. That's okay. Yarn over. This one's a little bit awkward because it's right by the knot. Go through it, pull it up just through underneath that. Go through 2, go through 2. Okay. And now I want to take a look at what these look like. Okay, if I look at the bottom here, right here, I've got V's just like I've got on the top, little V's. On this side, I don't really have those V's. This is the side I did the back loop. This is the side I did the front loop. Sometimes it's easier to work into this, and sometimes we like the look of this better. Sometimes the pattern needs us to do this. So sometimes it's an aesthetic choice, and sometimes it's a pattern choice to which you do. And sometimes it's just easier, especially when you're learning, to go in the front loops. But I wanted you guys to know how to do both, okay? And of course right here looks funny because that's where I did my weird front and back loop thing. I put it in a little bit of both. So that stitch actually has 2 stitches in it, which is weird, but cool. Actually kind of looks cool. If you can tell, when you look at it from the front over here, they kind of look the same when you're just looking at that profile. And then over here, this kind of looks the same. When you turn it over, however, here's where the front row stitches are, and you can see it's got that extra loop on the bottom from where we went in the back loop, but this side doesn't have that. So I think it would be a great idea for you to do a row with, do like a whole row of front loop double crochets and a whole row of back loop double crochets so you can see the difference between the two of them. At the end of your rows, typically what people do is chain 2 or 3. If they chain 2, usually, so like if they chain 2 and then turn their work, they typically don't count this as the first chain. There are also alternatives. I usually use an alternative, so eventually I'll teach alternatives. Follow your thing. They'll tell you it does not count as a stitch, or it does count as a stitch. I don't like it when it doesn't count as a stitch, but I follow the pattern because I'm not sure what all the pattern's going to do. Sometimes when I make it a second time, I will change that. It's just a choice. And the way that double crochets work is they stack on top of each other. So if I do this in here on top of it, I've actually put 2 stitches in, which doesn't work. That's what you would do if you did, let's do that. Let's just do a row where we do the 2 stitches and so we can see the difference. So if we chain 2 and turn, then you want to do your double crochet right here at the top of this one. So it just comes right up and right under the V. And then you just keep doing your double crochet like we did on the bottom. And then when we do our next one, again, we're going right on top of that and we're going to go right in there. Okay, so these do count as a stitch and this one doesn't count as a stitch when you're doing your counts. And that's how it looks. I'm going to go across. We'll talk about what to do across afterwards. So I'm just going to go all the way across here, doing double crochets in all of mine. I've got one more right here. If you are not counting, if they tell you turning chain does not count as a stitch, then you are done with your row right there. And you would have, that would be your ending. If the turning chain does count as a stitch, then you're going to go in the top of that. But because we're doing does not count, I'm going to leave that for a minute so we can kind of see the difference. So this time you can either chain 3 or turn your thing first and chain, and it just reorients the chain a little bit. It makes this one look a little bit thicker when you do that. Let's look at the difference. Okay, if I chain 3 and then turn it and I do my next stitch, that's what it looks like. And I'm going to take a screenshot of these and put them side by side for you so you can see the difference. And if I turn my work first and then do my chain and do my next stitch, I'll show you where you do your next stitch in just a second. That's what it looks like. And so like I said, I'm going to take a couple screenshots, put them side by side so you can see the difference. This time I want to count this as my first stitch. So my first double crochet in this row is right here. So this comes out and it counts as my first stitch. So that means I do not want to actually put anything in right there. I want to do my yarn over, and then I want to come in right above this. It's almost like it's wearing a hat. You're going to go in right under the V's, straight on top of that. I'm sorry about my dog. Okay, see, and now it's just lined straight on top of that. And we've got 1, 2, and 1, 2. Yarn over, go in right above, right in the top. It's kind of got, if you kind of pull it apart a little bit, you can kind of see that it's got a hole in there. Let me make sure you can see that it's got a hole in there. See the holes? And you're just going to go in right there. It's right underneath those V's. Okay, just underneath those two. And then I'm going to do my double crochet there, and it lines up. Okay, I'm going to double crochet across again. Yarn over, go through right there underneath those two. Yarn over, go through two. Yarn over, go through two. Yarn over, go in. Yarn over, pull out. Yarn over, go through two. Yarn over, go through two. Yarn over, go in. Yarn over, pull out. Yarn over, go through two. Yarn over, go through two. Yarn over, go in. Yarn over, go out. Yarn over, pull through two. Yarn over, pull through two. Yarn over. We're getting close to the end here. Go in. Yarn over, yarn over. Okay, now because this one here is the one that didn't count as a stitch, it's shorter and stuff, it would be really hard to put a stitch in there. That is the end of that row. Okay, so I'm going to turn this, I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to yarn over, and again, this one's coming out of the top of this one. I'm going to go in here to the second one, second stitch, second spot, yarn over, third stitch, third spot. Okay, I'm going to keep doing that all the way across. We're here, and I've done all the easy stitches, right? It's on top of that one. Now I've got this weird because it's the chain. So I'm going to yarn over and kind of figure out where the top of that chain is. And it's okay, you just kind of guess. And usually though, I try to make sure I've got 2, just like if it was a V. And I'm going to do my stitch right there. Okay, and now you can see it kind of just pulls up. The sides of these are fairly even. And if you notice, when you have these chain 2 on the end, it kind of leaves bumps. That's perfectly fine if you're not counting those as stitches. So I just wanted you to kind of see the difference between those. I'm going to go across one more time just to show you what it looks like in the chain again. Oops. It's pretty easy. You can see I've got one real stitch here and one weird chain thing here. I'm going to go in the top of the real stitch, do my double crochet in the top of it, and then again, it's kind of like, okay, well this is the top of that stitch. What's coming out over here? I could go in right here. It would be fine. I could try to squeeze it in right there. I usually try to squeeze it in right there and make sure that I've got 2. I do have them, but it's hard to tell that I've got 2 pieces of yarn on top. Pull it up, and there you go. And that, my loves, is how you do the double crochet. I hope it wasn't too confusing talking about the different ways people do the ends. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that there are different ways. How was it? How was it learning to double crochet? I hope that you found it something fairly easy and that you continue to use it. There's plenty of patterns that use the double crochet stitch, and I think that you could do a lot with just knowing. Even if you just know how to chain and double crochet, you could do a lot. You can also use the single crochet or any other techniques and make amazing things. It's what I love about crochet, is it's easy to make amazing things. So I will see you guys next time, and remember to let your light shine through your creation.